Hello Hampton Hart Park honey friends. Ready to check out what's going on in my beehives? Because I know I am. This is a recap from earlier this year. The middle hive was the only one that survived in the winter. What I did was I split then, because they were doing very well. I first split some brood, some babies into this hive, and then later on when I started seeing that these guys were getting the middle hive actually ready to swarm because they were still getting large in their population, and there were some cells of new queens developing, which would have been the new queen would be the one who essentially takes over the old hive, and the old queen takes half the hive with her to swarm and look for another place to reproduce a brand new colony. I didn't want that, so I took some splits and moved them into this hive. But the weather it's been a little more than 2 weeks, so there may be an adult queen in there, there may not be, but the weather has not been cooperative for breeding conditions out there, so it's going to be interesting to see what goes on here. But I'm just going to open up these guys and see what's going on inside here. So starting with Fossil Box over here, this is going to be the one that's going to be interesting because they've had time to potentially reproduce. And so I'm going to pop off this lid. Woo, look at them all. Okay, put that lid down there. Pardon the bouncing, I've got this little shoulder mount thing for my phone camera. But okay, so I've got a pretty good amount on the top here. I'm going to go in and take a look. So let's see what these girls are up to. Alright, smoke, get out of the way, get out of the way. That's what my smoke not only calms them down, but just sometimes just physically drives them away so that they don't get in the way of my work. So I'm just loosening up a couple of these hives, and actually I think I'm going to pause it for a moment until I get a little bit better demonstration. Now right up here on the top, didn't see a lot of action going on. I mean, I saw empty cells, some with honey in it, and they're working it out, but there was a lot of activity. So I wanted to take a little further look at here, and I am going to sit around here because it is quite active, and I'm pretty sure I spotted our queen bee who has possibly moved over here and was moving around. So bear with me, but obviously it's a needle in the haystack. I am not the world's best queen spotter yet. It would be a crack me up if one of you guys had already spotted her before I did over here. But they are moving pretty aggressively, and I thought I saw her big old butt moving around. So the weather's still being cool today. Unfortunately, this is my day off, so this is my opportunity to work. It's barely 60 degrees out here, and so the bees are clustering together to kind of keep warm. And I have a feeling that the queen might be hiding out in here somewhere. But if she is, she has not laid eggs yet. She may or may not be bred, but I don't see anything going on. But see how they kind of cluster together to keep warm? It's pretty cool. And so I'll keep looking, but so far I don't see any eggs in any of these things, so no activity as far as reproducing, but they're in a pretty good morale. They're kind of moving around a lot. And other frames on the top are kind of on the same side. So this next box down is actually a shallow box, you could see. It's actually what's called a honey super. You're not really supposed to put it between the deep brood boxes, but the reason why I put it there was because actually I was leaving this for food for the bees over the winter. With the extra honey, there wasn't a ton of it in there, but some of it's getting eaten, some of it's not. So I may actually just go ahead and kind of quasi-harvest this and refeed it to them. I can't use this for human consumption because this honey actually had a little oxalic acid chemical treatment in the fall. It was on while I treated for mites, but colony died anyways. I think the mite loads just spiked so hard. But anyways, there may be some impurities in this honey, which is safe for the bees, but not for us. And so I think I'm just going to kind of harvest it and return it as food. But interestingly, some of these supers, it almost looks like they kind of did some reverse engineering and deconstructed the filled comb and brought it down to just nothing but there's a little more bare comb than I've seen, so I don't know if what they're doing here, but oh my gosh, this thing is glued on. But anyways, I could see some bare spots inside there, so there's not a lot going on. I mean, it's good food reserves for them, but I want to really see what's going on in the bottom box, because it just seems like there's a lot of bees. I don't remember putting this many in here, and that's a little confusing. Now, my bottom box is interesting because I don't see any brood here, but check it out. There are bees with pollen on them, which means they're getting ready for raising babies. But even more interesting, you see these little, this is kind of upside down. Let me flip this around so it's right side up. It's kind of downward facing cone cells. Those were supersedure cells when you take babies from the other brood, and when they realize there is no queen, they kind of modify the cell and continue to feed the babies, a few of them, royal jelly until an adult queen emerges, and then she comes in and stings off and kills the other queens so that there's no competition, having only one queen. And then they start just chewing up these cells. Now look at that, there's like one cell being chewed up right there, and these suckers are empty. So I know I have a queen bee, and I was pretty sure I saw it on that one frame for a second, but she probably disappeared in the cluster that they were kind of keeping her warm. But this is really good news that I most likely have a queen, especially since they're getting pollen. Whether or not she's bred, I don't know. They have to take a few days to strengthen up for a mating flight, in which they mate with a bunch of other males. And then the males, the drones, essentially die the moment they finish breeding with her. Their abdomens explode as they inseminate her, so pretty rough ending for them. But then she comes back and they have to mature an extra 3 days before she starts laying eggs. But this is really kind of cool, because this is a good sign that they're getting pollen. Let's see what's going on. This here frame is a pretty active one, and I still see everything's empty, but it certainly tells me that there is readiness for brood in one sense or another. Yeah, more swarm cells or not swarm cells, more supersedure cells there that are emptied up. So I think we got ourselves a queen in here somewhere, and I'm just going to close it up, let them do their thing, and check in another week to see if there are babies developing. Actually, I can't help myself. I want to see what this other frame is with all their activity going on here. Alright, more pollen on this frame. Pollen carrying girls. And some brood just coming out as new adults. So I think some of my population explosion actually was just from the fact that I had a lot of frames of eggs that I put in there, and I just had given them an extra couple weeks to emerge as new adults. So no sign of reproduction yet, but the new adults are coming out well, and we will let them hopefully start having babies. Woo! Almost got hit there. Almost. Now, moving to hive number 2. This is what we call ocean view, but as you can see, there's my fossil themed box on top of there. This was all extra honey too that was supposed to be food reserve stores for the winter, but since that hive had died, I left it for food reserves for them. But now that this hive's doing fine, I think I might actually move this back over there to... Hi there. Alright. Yeah, you're just chilling. Alright, we're gonna just move this thing over eventually to see if I can restore some honey reserves for these, since I'm removing all their extra honey. But it's a good problem to have in May, to already have that much extra honey. They've got some food going for themselves. Okay, in case you're wondering, there's one plastic frame amidst wooden frames. If wondering why there's one black one, nothing different there. It's just a new frame I swapped with somebody. So all right, let me take a look at what's going on inside here. Now, interestingly, these used to be almost all capped honey, and they kind of uncapped some of it. You see the wax coating on the ones that have caps, that's honey that's ready. The shimmery, shiny open cells, it would either, normally early in the year, mean nectar that's still drying and becoming honey, because nectar has to be evaporated to a high specific gravity so it doesn't ferment. But they also open the cells if they're going to use it. So I think they've been actually consuming some of this because the weather's been bad. And it's been cold days, mostly cold days. But we've also had some cloudy, windy, and even one good rain day that we needed badly. But yeah, so it's kind of neat to see that they've actually been moving stuff around. And I did put in some empty cells that they're not doing anything with. But this is kind of just a boring top box, so I want to see what's going on deeper in there. Alright, well, here in my main area, we actually have a pretty happy situation here. A lot of, see, this is capped brood. This is not honey. It's kind of a dry surface, bulges out just slightly. If you see a very large bulge, then those are drone brood cells. I see a couple in the middle there. They typically tend to hang out in the bottom, but sometimes they just put them here and there. Drone bees are kind of like, if you look at these guys, there's a couple of them around who have these very large fat bodies. Their eyes are large and they kind of meet together at the top of their head. Larger than the queen bee or the worker bees, but no queen on this. But I'm also seeing open brood, which is babies that are less than 6 days old, where they're uncapped, and so they're still being prepared for the pupa stage. Once they have those caps on, they are considered capped brood, or technically the pupa stage, when they're developing into the adults. So they spend 3 days as an egg, and then they go into 6 days as a pupa stage, as larva stage, 12 days as a pupa stage, and they emerge as an adult then. Look at this. This is also one of the newer plastic frames that just less than 2 weeks ago was just a bare frame, and they're already filling it up pretty well with a comb. These little cells are kind of what they call, almost like they presume that they are just practice cells for supersedure. So they're tinier than they're typically needed. They're empty, so I just clean them out. It's like they got their practice done, but let's build some real cells that are really going to be used. Going into the second box. Holy cow, do I have a lot of bees in here. There's another one of those practice cells. Just gonna get rid of it. Don't know what was going on in there. But man, this is just, again, here's, you see some sticking up drone brood, some smaller brood on this side. Oh man, just open cells, closed cells. There are a lot of bees on here. I mean, it is build-up part of the year, but man, I really am going to have to work to make sure these guys don't swarm, or prepare to swarm again. Might even have to donate some frames of brood to the other cells. Yeah, here's some nice open ones that have eggs in them. Oh gosh, eggs are like little tiny grains of rice. I don't think we'll ever get the camera angle good enough to spot them like that, but on here. But if you get the lighting right, you could actually see these little things. So an egg means that even if you don't see the queen, you know she's out there and doing her job, because as I just mentioned, an egg is only 1 to 3 days before it hatches into a larva, and so that means the queen's been busy here within the past 3 days. And so I'll just keep looking for her, but I don't want to spend too much time to not to chill these babies too much and accidentally kill them off. But good stuff going on. This is what I like to see this time of year. So which puts you back. Good grief, there's a lot of bees here in the bottom box. Not only are there a lot of bees down here, but they're pretty short-tempered, which makes me wonder about the wisdom of me going in here with nothing more than a mask right now. I'm kind of agitated. You see, when they were earlier on, we saw some of them when they're just sitting around, nice and quiet, moving slow, nice and calm. That's a sign of not being worked up. This is starting to get a sign of being worked up. They're not completely pleased with me. Of course, I just had to drop that frame, which is going to make them even worse, but that's why I have the smoke going. Keep you guys distracted. Well, finishing up the bottom box, I mean, there's just a lot of babies going on in there, so no swarm cells, which is good. They're still feeling like they have enough space to work, but it definitely makes me think that if these boxes are all full of bees, not only am I going to donate some brood maybe to that developing one that I'm going to check in just a moment, but I may actually put the honey supers on just to give them some space to work, because I didn't think I'd be starting this early on that, but there's really not a ton of extra room for them, and that may actually help them get some honey going. So I can, yeah, so I'm pretty excited. I'm going to work on that. Now down here in Brick House, my hive number 3, this is going to be pretty simple and straightforward. Do I see developing queen cells or don't I? I put in some brood in there, and I definitely think these guys could use another boost of babies from that nearly maxed out hive on the other one, but I'm just going to take a look at this bottom box because the middle two or the top two really didn't have much of anything going on. And here we have it, ladies and gentlemen. There is a supersedure cell right where my thing is pointing. That is essentially what I was looking for a developing queen. So yeah, that's kind of what I thought. Sometimes if they're queenless and no hope, they're kind of moving around slow, kind of have no morale. But yeah, they're pretty active on there, so that's a pretty good thing. That's the first one I've spotted. Again, it's nice to give a little insurance and probably give a couple extra cells on there, but that means things are in progress. She is developing, and we should have some nice weather starting the weekend, actually getting to seasonal temperatures, which will be well for her flight. Okay, that's a fake supersedure cell there. It's not large enough. That was like one of those practice cells. But alright, so I see one, and still some brood popping out from the stuff I donated. But yeah, I think I'm just going to give them another baby boost, and things are on plan. So the good news is, at least for one hive, I may be actually preparing for getting some honey harvesting going. Oh, there's another cell. That's great. So we've got ourselves a couple queens. Oh, several here. Okay, yeah, this is good stuff. Let the best lady win. Whoever gets out first kills everybody else. All right, let's pop that back in so we don't chill them. And I will get to work reassembling stuff. But that's the update. So we have action going on and everything. First hive, the one that survived, everybody is busting at the seams. I'm still going to try to prevent swarms from developing. Second hive, I think we had ourselves a queen that I spotted but couldn't record fast enough, but she just hasn't started laying eggs. And this one's developing. So we'll check back next week.